gonna be big. We got a month to go. Looks like a combination of a lot of stuff going on. I got about time, so. She's against the floor of the line. Oh, there's some plaster behind the dryer. That too. All we just.
Amazing how that expands.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I just
$500. Invested in
Exactly.
materials. Little tiny laundry.
We're gonna have a live meeting today, 18 minutes.
What's that for?
Workforce. There'll be at least a couple, but I don't show up.
Soon.
Yeah, I can hear somebody. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
You guys want that microphone over on the table or over there?
Yeah.
We'll get it. Sure. So do you need a new car? Because that's annoying. There's no.
Well, silicone sprayers.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I call the meeting to order this morning. I guess we'll go ahead and do the pledge of allegiance. We'll give it a shot again today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
liberty
justice for all.
for all.
All right, any changes or additions to the agenda? Courtney, do you have any?
I have none.
Anybody else have any questions or things you want to put on the agenda for today?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Neil. We have a motion for approval of the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed, motion carries. All right, the minutes from the July 27th meeting.
I thought they read good. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, I'll second that. Here we have a motion and a second for the approval of the July 27th minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed, motion carries. Okay, first thing up is Essex Radio. morning, Ray.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you.
Loud and clear.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and greetings from the Minneapolis area. So we've got a couple of action items today, and then we'll give you a brief update on some other things. The first item is the concrete work for placing the radio shelter at the Coon Rapids Tower site. And we prepared and issued an RFP for this concrete work. The shelter that has been purchased from one of the previous meetings here needs to sit on a concrete pad. It's not a full foundation, it's a floating slab. So we issued the RFP and actually contacted several local contractors. What we did was we contacted the local ready mix company there in town, and they gave us a list of local contractors who we actually called and talked to and sent them copies of the RFP. We received one proposal from Mike Schultes Construction, and that was for $4,165. And talking with Jason, it's my understanding he's a good local reputable contractor. And that price is well within our budget range. We had a budget range of $4,000 to $6,500 for this concrete work. So I don't know why we only got one. I presume in talking with folks, everybody's quite busy this time of year. So, but as we like to say, all we need is one good proposal. So in my opinion, that's what we've got. And I have not contacted him to follow up yet. I was going to wait till this meeting, but
Okay. What was the size on that, Ray?
it's a 10 by 20 for the building and generator. And then there's also a separate pad for a propane tank. And I want to say that's, I don't know, 5 by 10 or thereabouts.
I'm disappointed that you didn't get more responses. There isn't anything you can do about that. Mike has done a lot of cement work for me, and I will say that he's a very reputable contractor. I'm glad we did get one from Mike.
Glad to hear that. So I'll turn it back to you, seeking approval on this proposal.
Okay, and that all your requirements. So I guess I'm looking for a motion to either approve or we go back out for another bid or whatever, what say the board?
I'll move.
Go ahead, Neil.
I'll move that we approve the current bid. We did send RFPs out to several contractors.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on that? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of entering into that contract with Mike Schultes Construction for the concrete work, say aye.
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 And opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the list is crane service for setting the shelter at the same tower site over there in Coon Rapids. Once the concrete work is done and we've got the green light to move ahead, the building will be shipping on a semi, a lowboy, and delivered to the site. You need a crane to lift this thing, and it weighs a little over 30,000 pounds because it's concrete, and set it in place on the new concrete pad. And we had reached out to several crane services. Most of them are out of the Des Moines area, of course, that are big enough to handle something like this. And we had sent them some pictures of the tower site and so forth. And the proposal we received was from Barnhart Crane Service, which I guess is one of the bigger services. And they actually specialize in tower site work. And frankly, this lifting and setting is a little bit tricky at this site because it sits up on top of a hill. And there's a, fence around the compound already, plus there's guy wires on the tower. So they actually submitted a drawing to us as to how they would accomplish this. And they had given us their pricing. It's a little bit of a smorgasbord because they've got crane travel time and personnel time and so on and so forth. But ultimately, they came back and said they expect it to be around $3,600 for the lift. And frankly, we had budgeted $4,000 to a little over $6,000 for the crane. So we're actually under budget on this particular item. And I think, I'm not sure why the others weren't interested again. I know they're busy, and a couple of them didn't have a crane big enough to lift something like this. So I'm recommending that we approve the Barnhart crane proposal for this work.
If Barnhart is including the travel time, is it travel from their previous site, which should be near or further, or is it from Des Moines?
It's from their yard in Grimes.
Okay. And I suppose that we'll have this well organized so that the crane will show up and the cement will be done and it won't sit there for very long. How do you coordinate that, Ray?
Well, that's my job. And the first thing to do is get that concrete work done and be sure that that's all set in place. And once that happens, we reach back out to the building vendor who will be loading and shipping this thing, and contact Barnhart. And we all agree on a day that it's going to happen, and tell them to do their thing, get it done.
Okay.
I say logistically, that's a little tough one to get into because there's kind of a sharp corner for them to get up, and then they've got a pretty good uphill grade coming in from the driveway. So it'll be an interesting one to watch.
No doubt.
But there's already a building set up there, so they've done this before, correct?
Correct.
Does the trucker wait for the crane, or does the crane wait for the trucker? How does that happen? It takes a while often takes time to set up a crane, et cetera, et cetera.
Usually, the shelter delivery is a fixed price. That's already been included in the purchase. So, typically the shelter in past projects has shown up early and parks up the road somewhere and waits for the crane to set up. The shelter's coming out of St. Joe, Missouri, so it's not too far away.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from Barnhart Crane Service for $3,600 estimate.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more questions or discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. A couple of other follow-up items that we're working on. I'm actually going to be in town this week in a couple of days. We're going to go out to the Coon Rapids site and pound some stakes in the ground for the exact location of the concrete and so forth, so that they can go ahead and get started on that as soon as possible. And then we're also in the process of preparing another RFP for electrical work, actually at all three sites. At Coon Rapids, we need underground service from the meter. They have a multi-meter panel out the corner of the property, and that'll have to go over to the shelter. And then probably some minor updates inside the shelter. And then at Lanesboro, we need that building rewired now that the construction is complete. So I'm working on that. And we're also reaching out for proposals for new HVAC heating cooling units for the Lanesboro Tower site. And I'll provide more information on that as well. And then I think Jason has an update on the construction work that's been completed at the Lanesboro site. Jason, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so board should have received an email from me last week. Last week I went out to the site, took some pictures, inspected the work. It all looks very good. Fitting of everything looks very nice. Looks a lot better than it did before we started. Looks like something we can utilize now. So it looks good. Lake Secondary Roads did some killing of some weeds and stuff for us.
I think maybe conservation.
Conservation.
Mode, and I talked to our guys, once the growth starts coming back, we'll try to spray it like right now.
Perfect. So it's looking a little better than it previously had. So that's positive. And we'll continue to clean up the ground area around there, brush all the way and stuff. So that's looking good. And then we've got just a couple of minor things left to do, and to cut holes for the HVAC units and the antenna port. And I believe the painting should have happened last week after I was there. It wasn't painted when I was there. I talked
Not
to
the outside.
the inside.
Oh, 'cause I drove by it this weekend and then the outside. looked like it.
Yes,
Right.
it looks nice. And I also noticed when I went into the structure, even though it was an 87 degree day or whatever, the inside was nice and cool. So the insulating and things that have been added to that building seem to be making a difference. Because when we were there in May, it was, I think, in the mid 70s, and it was rather warm in the shelter. So that's a stark difference. So hopefully that bodes well for whatever it costs to heat and cool the structure. But all in all, looking good there.
Jason, I
Thanks for that.
appreciate the pictures you sent.
Yeah, thanks for the pictures. I was very impressed with the work that was done, and it was done pretty quickly too. You guys didn't have to wait very long or anything like that, did you?
No, Ryan's been really good to work with. Most of the work got done while I was on a week's worth of vacation. So Ray did a lot of the contacting or the back and forth with Ryan as he was working on things, and he was very sensitive to making sure that when he ran into something that he checked with Ray to make sure that he was doing what he wanted to, and it all, I mean, it really looks excellent. Everything's been done really well for the type of structure it is. He did very good work, I think.
Jason, who did that work again?
Ryan Schroeder, construction. I believe he's a retired Marine and was from the area, and he's now come back and getting his feet underneath him as a construction business, and does a good job as far as I can tell.
Okay,
Yeah, I was also impressed by what the pictures showed.
any more questions or discussion with Jason or Ray, either one?
I did want to mention too, the radio installs are ongoing, so new radios are being taken out. They've got some kind of a baseline programming to work on the current system, and those are getting installed in trucks last week and this week. So that work is ongoing, and departments are starting to see what being taken out there and installed in the trucks.
All right, if no other questions, then thanks Ray for joining us this morning, and see, maybe we'll run into you this week.
Thank you very much. Look forward
Thanks,
to
Ray.
getting down there. Bye-bye.
All right. Secondary road. Zach.
Morning.
Morning,
Morning.
Zach.
Short list today. As we talked about previously, went out for quotes on pickups. and they were due back on Friday. We're looking at quotes on both half-ton and three-quarter ton. Just as you guys can see, received 4 different quotes for the half-ton and 2 for a three-quarter ton. Basically, the reason for the 2 is there's some difficulty in getting prices and costs for some models because of what's going on with COVID-19. We got some very good numbers back, and just like to proceed with them and keep the ball rolling. I know it's going to take a little while for production and then delivery, but as first, I'd like to see if you got any questions on what numbers you see in front of you.
So Zach, you're gonna put in an order on the truck and it will be built, is that correct? Or is there a truck out there?
It will be built. There's nothing that's built right now on a 2021. It has to be ordered and then built.
Well, I talked to someone on Saturday afternoon who ordered a new work truck similar to what we've are bidding here in February, and he's getting it on Friday. He's scheduled to get it on Friday. So, you know, I think it's, if we can get one this year, that might be a good thing. You know, I guess I wouldn't be terribly optimistic about the delivery time on this truck, whichever one we pick.
Yeah, things are a little backed up everywhere, I believe, no matter what segment of the economy you want to attack. It just, everything seems to be backed up.
Well, what we had talked about originally in the budget was getting 3 pickups. The way I quoted or did the specifications, I basically said 1 or 2 half-ton and 1 or 2 three-quarter ton. I wanted to see kind of how the numbers came in with the very close pricing on the three-quarter ton versus the half-ton. I think it'd be very beneficial to go towards 2 three-quarter tons and 1 half-ton this time, based on what we came in for numbers. But the way we moved some things around and made things work for the budgetary wise, I think we'll be well under budget for equipment for this year. And I still think the numbers are very reasonable. So I guess I'd like to proceed with getting all 3 if you're on board with that.
Gene, you're muted.
You're saying you want to order 1 half-ton and 2 three-quarter ton?
That's correct.
Okay.
For the difference of $56, I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
Is this what you had budgeted around the area that you had budgeted for these trucks?
Yes, it's very close. I think this was originally was in fiscal year 20's budget, not fiscal year 21, and I think Dave had figured roughly 100,000 for that. So we're slightly over, but with everything that's happened in the last 6 months, I guess I feel pretty comfortable with those numbers.
Have you considered getting all three-quarter ton trucks? The bid amount is pretty darn close.
It is. The only thing that makes me kind of go away from that deal is the fact that on the specifications, I said 1 or 2 half-ton and 1 or 2 three-quarter ton. And I guess I want to kind of follow that. I expect it to be a greater difference between those. But I would agree that for $56, would be a no-brainer if I wouldn't have put the specification together the way we did.
Well, And the only other thing I think is if you go from a half to a 3/4, you're gonna sacrifice the mileage. So I think wherever you can use a half ton is more wiser. I mean, you're gonna have a better ride in that half ton than you will a 3/4 ton. And I assume these are Chevys, they have the fuel management package in it, so they drop from 8 to 4 when they're in kind of like cruise mode.
I believe so.
And that'll make a big difference on your mileage.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yep.
Well, I think those are very reasonable prices, and I am surprised too that there's only that much difference between a half ton and 3/4 ton. I would be willing to accept your proposal, Zach. Did they give you a date that they thought they would have them?
No, they really didn't. Talking to the different vendors, it was kind of different across the board. I mean, production probably wouldn't start on these until October, maybe. I don't know for sure. Kind of varied on vendor a little bit, but the date that I had a receive by date was end of January, and that might be tough to meet. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, but I think it's just going to take a while to get everybody ramped up and going on this, and no matter what vendor it is, and with the situation we're in. So.
All right. I would make a motion that we purchase one half and 2 3/4 at the low price of the Motor Inn's low bid.
I'll second that.
I think the dollar amount should be published in the minutes as well.
Yes, yes, and I'll go ahead and amend that motion that the half ton from Motor Inn, the bid was $34,689. And the 3/4 ton trucks from Motor Inn were $34,745. And these are 2021 vehicles.
I will still second that motion.
Okay, any more discussion? Not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Zach, pop up since?
Not a whole lot, just quick update on Dedham Millie Road. Hopefully this week we'll get done shouldering out there. So had really good weather and a little bit of rain last week, but overall we couldn't really have a better summer for working on that. So that's gone well, moved a lot of dirt.
You get your demos done on?
Did demos on three different skid loaders, so just trying to get one more yet this week if it worked out, but we'll see. Something. Otherwise, going well.
Okay, we're still up for Wednesday?
Yep.
All right, very good. Any more questions for Zach? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
The next thing
Thanks, Zach.
is the COVID-19 pandemic employee guideline discussion. Okay, what was the final decision we're going to make with this? We kind of went through this three times. We're not going to add it to the handbook. Is that the last part of the discussion I remember? We're just going to send it out to the department heads. Is that correct?
Right. I think we're just going to use that as a memo, as a guideline. That's it.
As a policy change, yeah. Similar to the COVID-19 10-day proclamation that was made.
After hearing the recommendation from our county attorney, I think it's good that we have it just as a guideline, not in the handbook.
But I also think we should delete section D.
Remind me what's in section D.
County employees shall not be seen in public in violating the directive from public health. Failure to adhere to those policies can result in disciplinary action. I mean, who regulates that? I mean, that's what John Warden's recommendation is. I don't feel that needs to be in there. I think we can hold our staff accountable and just stay home.
Rest of you guys want to weigh in on that?
Well, I do have mixed feelings on that because I was told of someone that has had it and they were seen going and getting groceries and stuff, and that doesn't do the public any good.
My concern is how you will regulate an employee when they're not on county time.
Yeah, that's very true.
What was that, Courtney?
I have concerns how you regulate what people are doing. They're not on county time. They're not in being paid as an employee out in public. You're telling them what to do. And like Steph said, how do you police that?
But I think the point you're trying to make here is that if they're sick, they're supposed to stay home.
You know, Part D is probably a little strong in that should not be seen in public. My goodness, you could be in your vehicle going to the doctor's office and be seen in public. Maybe it should be reworded to state that the county employees will follow the directives from the public health.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty broad statement. The implication can be interpreted several different ways, many ways. I guess if we want to respect the honesty of our employees, then I think we need to delete it.
I agree. I think we should drop it. I don't want to turn this to a tattletale society, so. I agree.
There's in B, it says notify their department head immediately within 12 hours. So it's either immediately or it's 12 hours. It can't be both. Does anybody agree with that?
Saying
12.
immediately or.
No. Neil, you're muted.
Okay. Yeah, I think the minimum is 12 hours. I think is what they mean by that. But you're right, Dean. They could delete the word immediately. I think what they meant to say was ASAP, but always within 12 hours. Maybe it should be reworded to say that.
Otherwise, I don't have any problem with any of it, and the way we're approaching it, I think it's the right way.
So how do you want
Motion to make the changes and forward to department. Yeah.
How are they like to get paid? Okay, so I guess what, according to we think we need a motion to make the changes that we just discussed and have the department heads go ahead and apply that to relate the rest of the employees, however they wish to do it, whether they send it out as a email or whatever however they want to do it. But I think probably dropping E and the other changes that Dean had.
Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve this as a guideline with Dean's suggestion of removing immediately in section B and then deleting section D.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say
Aye.
Aye.
and those opposed, motion carries. All right. The next thing up, newer management. And it's a change of crop rotation for optimum yields, section 21 of Arcadia Township. Committee reports.
I have a committee report. Tuesday, I had the meeting of the RSVP and foster grandparents. The highlights of the meetings were they had volunteers surveys, asking the volunteers what they would do in order to serve, would they wear masks, and it was quite extensive. And because some places are requiring masks, and the surveys basically came back pretty good that they would be willing to comply with the various locations and their requirement were mask or not wear mask and that type of thing. We also had volunteer station rules and for returning to service, which kind of when they have to wear mask and when they don't. The volunteers are all pretty darn good about that. They reviewed the funding received. That's all over the board, but it is a little bit down. Some of the funding is the volunteer recognition has been by mail, basically. That's about all they can do. And they mailed them, basically got gift cards rather than had a volunteer recognition party or event and that type of thing. So they talked about returning to service and with both RSVP and foster grandparents, and guess that was the big discussion. Those are all my committee reports, and this week I don't have any meetings scheduled yet.
I will go next then. On last week, on Tuesday, Rich and I met with the one board member from Veterans Affairs, and we had a discussion about our decisions, and they just wanted some clarification on some of the comments that were made. And Chantel was also at this meeting, and I think when it got all said and done and we were all on the same page, it was just a matter of getting things clarified and get an understanding why each individuals were feeling the way they were. And I thought it turned out very well. Then on Wednesday, I did get on the ISAC webinar in regard to the legislative update for this last year. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but they do have a summary of legislation that's on their website that you can get hold of. And the other thing is that they're in the process now. I think you have to file by this Friday for any new suggestions for any new legislation that has to go through the legislative process of ISAC to get it in their agenda for this next year. And so for this next week, I will be doing the radio and the newspaper today, and also tomorrow I do have another CADC meeting. That's my week.
I can go next. I had no formal meetings last week, but I did reach out to Adam Keel with the Iowa Soybean Association and some clarification on the new project that is going to be going forward on the North Raccoon River, and it's pretty impressive. They applied for a grant through the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, and it was approved. They were awarded a $9.8 million project grant through partnerships with Syngenta, Agriculture's Clean Water Alliance, Iowa Agricultural Alliance, Upstream Tech, the City of Des Moines, North Raccoon River Watershed Coalition, the DNR, IDOLS, Heartland Co-op, Ag Partners, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So with those partners, the partner contributions are $16 million. So the whole project is right at 26 million. So this is a 5-year project. They had an agronomist. There's going to be agronomists throughout, 3 agronomists throughout the whole watershed. And there'll be one actually located in the Carroll community. The 5-year project goals are 50,000 acres of cover crops, 19,200 acres of reduced tillage, 22 bioreactors, 20 oxbow wetland restorations, 25 saturated buffers, and 5 nutrient removal wetlands. So these are practices that really don't involve any real projects. The only thing is that, they're going to probably put some wetlands out there. That would probably be the only thing. I mean, there's not going to be any dams. There's not going to be any type of terracing or anything like that. It's mostly just agricultural practices. So they're throwing a lot of money at it, and their goals are extremely high, and we'll just see how it turns out, I guess. So other than that, I really had nothing last week, and I don't have really anything on the horizon for this week either. So
I can go next. Last week I didn't have any official business meeting wise. I did do the radio and newspaper last week. And this week, we did decide to go via email. The board for Carroll Area Daycare decided to go every other week. And this week, I think, do we have Emergency Coalition Friday? Is that this Friday? Okay, Emergency Coalition this Friday.
All right. Thanks, everybody. My week last week was kind of light. Tuesday, I met with Gene and Veterans Affairs, and like Gene said, I think we came out of there with a better understanding of the program, and they understood us a little bit better also. Today, this afternoon, I've got the WIWD, the workforce. All 18 counties are going to try to meet in person today, 3:30 this afternoon. That will be in Denison. We're finishing up, we're inking the bylaws for the organization today, and I believe we have a fiscal agent that will be present today, and we may have 2 administrators that have interest in becoming the administrator for the coalition that will be there also today. Then on Wednesdays, Zach and I have a little project we're gonna go down and take a look at in Coon Rapids area. Steph, you're more than welcome to go along. I can let you know what time on that, and I'll send you a text on it. Friday, I have a conference call for the Iowa workforce, and that's the CEOs of all the regions in the state of Iowa. The state of Iowa, the old workforce is, we're laying out the pieces as we go, and they're just keeping track of all the regions and see how we're doing and where we're at. They have dates that we try to hit some of these dates so we can get this, so they can be completely done with it and hand it over to the local region. That will be Friday. We have those every other Friday for an hour. Also on Friday, I'll have, if there's a coalition, I'll probably try to jump on that also. If not, that's all I really have going on. Courtney, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Next week, we have a public hearing at 10 for the budget amendment. It's also a bill day. And then I just got this morning a Class C liquor license for the Carroll Mall. So that'll be on the agenda.
Okay. Fairly light week next week too, but that's okay. We'll keep it that way for a while. Let's not have anything real out of the ordinary. I think everybody's kind of getting a little tired of it. So anyway, any other comments?
Yeah, Rich and Gene, I want to thank you for meeting with the veterans people.
You're welcome. Yeah, I was real happy the way that thing turned out.
All right. If we have nothing else, I guess the motion to adjourn is in order.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.